At 32, I was truly happy. I lived in a small Scandinavian town with my fiancée, a beautiful 29-year-old woman with whom I had a 5-year-old son. I had a nice house in a good neighborhood and a successful business in my own construction company with 4 employees. Julia and I had been together for 6 years and had started talking about a magnificent wedding. We weren't in a hurry to get married. Most young people prefer to do the same, living together for several years before they can afford an expensive wedding. This story began on Friday afternoon, when I went to the nearest train station to pick up Julia, who had left for a nearly week-long course on political public relations, and my son and I saw her off on the train on Sunday evening. Julia is considered a rising star in the local politics of our small town, and I've heard that her local party is counting on her as one of its future leaders. She belongs to a small liberal party that maintains a balance between the right and left wings and benefits from both sides. She usually goes away several times a year for various political courses, usually for a day or two. As a good mother, she misses her child when she is away and usually calls home every day to chat with him. But this time was different. And by Tuesday evening, when our boy fell ill, I had a strange feeling that something was wrong. She didn't call or even answer when I tried to reach her on her cell phone all evening. There was not a single call home, even after several text and voice messages. There was no contact until I got in touch with her through the course administration on Wednesday morning, and she was angry as a bee because I had contacted her through the course leaders when she called me the next time on Thursday. Now, at the station, I knew right away that something was wrong. Of course, she was happy to see our child, but when I tried to kiss and hug her, she wouldn't let me. "Not here," was her strange remark. In my opinion, this is perfectly normal behavior at train stations when people meet or part. We drove home in silence, and she didn't say a word even after we got home until our boy went to bed. I prepared a romantic welcome home dinner, but she said she had already eaten and didn't want anything. Now I was really worried about her and asked, "I can see that something is bothering you. Are you sick, or do you have other problems?" "No, I'm not sick, but I have something very important to tell you." "Go ahead." "I've met the man of my life, and I love him with all my heart. Now I'm his, only his woman. You can stay my friend, but you're no longer my man." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "And you slept with him?" "We don't sleep, we make love, which is much more sensual than just sex, and of course we did it every night." "Who is he?" "His name is Benjamin Hassel. He holds a high position in our party's district committee. Unfortunately for me, he is still married and lives in our county's capital. He hasn't decided what to do about his marriage yet, but one thing I know for sure. I love him with all my heart." In difficult situations, I have learned 2 important things. First, don't panic. And second, calm down before you do anything. After a minute of silence, I asked her, "When are you leaving me and where are you going? What about our son?" "I'm not leaving you, at least not yet. He's married, and we need time to figure out how the 3 of us are going to live." "You're not leaving? How can you believe for a second that you can stay here when you're sleeping with someone else? Are you completely insane, or has your lover drugged you? You must be out of your mind if you think I want to keep a whore in my house." "Like I said, we can remain friends. I've never been more serious than I am right now. Please let me offer you a fair option for our new life." I decided to stay calm and listen to everything she had to say before doing anything. She rummaged through her bag, took out her laptop, and went into my home office, where I could hear the sound of a printer. She returned with a handwritten sheet of paper and handed it to me. It was a kind of agreement, but before I started reading, she said, "Benjamin wanted a lot more rules, but I tried to negotiate fair terms for you. Ben said that if you want to change anything in this agreement, he promised to agree to further negotiations between you. But I have to warn you, he's a very smart man, and you could end up with much worse terms than I was able to negotiate for you. I really did everything I could to get you a fair deal." I realized that Benjamin must have some strange skills, since he had brainwashed Julia so badly in a week that she had gone crazy. If I agreed to their terms, I would be a real cuckold, so I asked her, "Do you really want to treat me the same way that a promiscuous wife and her repeat offender lover treated poor Sebastian? Do you? And I hope you know what happened next." Sebastian's wife made him the laughingstock of the town when she went on a girls' night out and came home with a recently released convict. Poor Sebastian was kicked out of his bed and out of the bedroom, where the convict slept with his wife several times until morning. Poor Sebastian didn't dare to object when the much stronger man demanded that he put on a napkin, be their butler, and serve them drinks and breakfast in their marriage bed. After that, the jailbird bragged to the whole town about what he had done. Everyone felt sorry for poor Sebastian. When the former prisoner promised to do it again and take pictures next time, Sebastian's colleagues couldn't take it anymore. A group of them beat up the former prisoner, who left town after a week in the hospital in search of a healthier place. Julia looked a little confused and scared when I mentioned Sebastian, but she was clearly so brainwashed that she wasn't going to back down from her crazy proposals. She tried to cheer me up, saying, "No, of course, it will be between you, me, and Ben. No one will ever know about our relationship. When Ben isn't coming over, everything will be the same as usual, except that you'll sleep in the guest room and we won't have sex like we used to. But, as you can see in the newspaper, you'll agree to remain faithful to me, and so Ben has promised to allow me to give you the night to make you happy and satisfied. He suggested that he usually go home afterwards so you wouldn't be too jealous of him. Of course, this is a generous reward that I will only give you if you behave yourself, and as you can see in the last sentence, if Ben doesn't file for divorce and leave his wife within 6 months, I will give you back, and everything will be as it was before I met Ben." She offered me the leftovers of her husband as a reward. I had heard enough and couldn't listen to any more of the nonsense she was spouting. I didn't believe she was serious, and it seemed impossible to me that a normal person could go crazy in a 5-day course on political public relations. It must have been some kind of dirty joke concocted by a group of pranksters. So I laughed and shouted, "Great joke! Is this a hidden camera? Or do you have a tape recorder in your bag and you're going to use the recording for entertainment at some party? Great joke, really. For a moment, I actually believed that you had lost your mind and were serious about some idiot named Ben and his meaningless piece of paper." Instead of reading the contract, I crumpled it up and threw it in her face with a laugh. To my great surprise, she didn't laugh or even smile at me. She just looked me straight in the eye and said, now with a slightly more frightened expression on her face, "Please understand. I'm serious." "What the hell do you mean?" "Please calm down and let me finish." Now I was furious and started yelling everything I needed to say. "Please shut up and listen to me for a minute. You and your crazy boyfriend must have been high and lost all common sense when you came up with this nonsense. My dear, you've forgotten that you live on my private property and should understand that neither you nor this crazy guy you met at your damn classes can tell me what to do or not to do in my own home. But I have every right to ask you to leave my house as soon as possible, taking all your things with you. As far as I know, you spent most of your salary on clothes, so you have nothing to take with you. I want you out of my house as soon as possible. I'm just as crazy as the two of you, so I understand that you'll need time to find an apartment that suits you and that you can afford, so I can allow you to rent a spare room for the time being as a lodger. Tomorrow I'll tell you the terms and give you a contract to sign. You can accept my terms or leave now. One of the terms is no guests. If I see that crazy bastard who's responsible for this mess in my house, I'll throw him out on the street. Do you understand me?" She cried when she realized she couldn't keep any of the promises she had made to Ben, and they were so simple. Everything she and Ben had planned for their future in my house was now completely unrealistic and impossible. She sobbed, "You can't do this to me, you can't." I already did. You admitted yourself that you cheated on me with some crazy Benjamin, and there's nothing more I can do. Your boyfriend must have completely brainwashed you. How could you believe for a second that I'm as weak as poor Sebastian? What the hell were you doing in those damn classes? Please take off your engagement ring." She didn't answer, just sat at the kitchen table. I went to our bedroom and took all her things to the spare room in the basement. The spare room was almost like a small apartment with its own bathroom. There was a sofa and a small TV in the large room, so she had nothing to complain about. Then I went to my home office and wrote her a living agreement. She had the right to use the kitchen, half of the refrigerator, and the laundry room. We both had to buy our own food and cook for ourselves. She was not allowed to use the living room, the car, the computer, the printer, the fax, or the telephone. She was just a tenant and had to pay rent a week in advance. However, even in my anger, I felt a little sorry for her and set the rent fairly low. When I was done, I went to the dining room and began to eat my lonely dinner. As I ate, I believed in what had happened that evening. One thing was clear. Julie must have been completely brainwashed by the madman she had met in class. He had probably made her dream of a high political position where I, as her husband, would not be able to keep her company. I could not find any other reasonable explanation for her new madness. Of course, she sometimes envied Jennifer, one of her divorced friends, who had a new boyfriend several times a year. She resented my comments about Jennifer's behavior, that she's just desperately looking for someone like me to settle down with, and that there were no signs of new happiness in her behavior. Neither of us could deny that after 6 years of living together and having a child, we no longer felt the passion we had when we first met. It's no secret what can happen and usually does happen at courses and conferences, but as long as no more than 20 to 30% of employees participated in such events, the spouses who stayed at home usually accepted the explanation that he or she was, of course, among the 70 to 80% who were innocent, which in most cases was true. If Julia had shown common sense when she fell in love with that scoundrel Ben and wanted to stay with me until his divorce, she could have spent many nights with him in a hotel, telling me that she had gone away on a political course. I never checked where she was when she said she was leaving, and I never even thought to ask her what she was doing when she went away for courses. Her words were always enough for me. But Ben was obviously too stingy to pay for such pleasures and believed it would be cheaper and less risky if they used my house and created some kind of threesome relationship where I would be the weak cuckold. If they, or at least one of them, had shown some common sense, they would have realized that a normal person cannot accept such a situation without a fight. I know that such relationships with weak husbands are common in erotic stories, but the main difference between fiction and reality is that in stories, the husband never resists or defends himself against an outsider who is going to take his wife away and ruin his life. In reality, every normal man will fight, not become a slave like a weakling. When such threesomes appear in real life, all participants usually share an interest in participating in the game and find each other through ads in sex magazines, swingers clubs, or simply hire a prostitute to play one of the roles. By doing what Ben did to Julia, she brought trouble upon herself. First, she told me about her affair, and then she tried to say that Ben and she had decided what I could do in my own home. The next morning, Julia accepted my terms and paid for the week, but made a fuss about the boy and threatened to keep him away from me. I didn't care because she had no right to decide such matters. I was sure I could work something out with him. I promised her we would share the food that was left in the house, and when we were having breakfast on Saturday morning, the phone rang. I answered, and an unfamiliar male voice said, "Good morning. Am I speaking with Lars Eriksson?" "Yes." "My name is Ben Hassel. Did Julia speak with you last night?" "Yes." "May I ask if you came to an agreement?" "Yes. But not what you think, you son of a bitch. She signed a residence agreement, and I will gladly kick her out of my house when she finds another place to live. Remember, if I see your ass on my property, I'll attack you without warning. Oh my God. Can I talk to her? Yes, of course, but not on my phone. Then give me her cell phone number. Don't ask me, asshole. I seemed to have confused him a little, because it was hard to believe that any of his party friends or work colleagues would dare call him an asshole, even though almost all of them wanted to do so many times. A few seconds later, the phone rang again, and Ben shouted, I demand to speak to Julia. What? I have a right to talk to her. Get lost, asshole. Julia was in a strange mood. She knew that no one in politics would dare treat her lover and guru Ben the way I did, or talk to him the way I did. I had always been nice to her and often agreed with her suggestions instead of arguing with her. If she believed I did it because I was weak, she would soon find out she was wrong. Then I told her what she already knew. He was the so-called man of your life. How can you be so rude to people you've never met? Imagine how rude I'll be when I get my hands on that jerk. That evening, we had been invited and had promised 2 weeks earlier to go to one of her best friend's birthday parties at a beautiful hotel outside the city. Many of our friends would be there, and we knew it would be a wonderful evening. Julia asked me if I was still going, and she looked at me strangely again when I said yes and offered to split the taxi fare. She asked, You want me to pay half the taxi fare? Sure. Did you forget that we're not a couple anymore? Don't blame me. Please remember who broke up with you. She wanted to go and agreed to my offer. The party was great, with live music and dancing. Julia was lovely as always and had a good time. She hardly noticed that I avoided her all evening. I danced a few songs with Jennifer, who was very surprised when I told her that Julia had left me for a married politician she had met at a PR course. I wasn't surprised when Jennifer said to me, I've always envied her for being lucky enough to find a man like you. When Jennifer and I left the party, and I told Julia she had to get home on her own, she cried and said, You can't do this to me. Of course I could. Jennifer and I went to her place, where we started taking each other's clothes off as soon as we walked in the door. After that, she made breakfast. Before I left, I told Jennifer that she was a beautiful girl and I would like to see her again, but my life was so complicated that I couldn't believe in a relationship at that moment. She understood. When I got home, Julia was in the kitchen, furious. There was no doubt that she had been crying. She asked me, How could you do that? It wasn't difficult. Jennifer told me she had always been jealous of our relationship, so why not take a chance when it presented itself? No one was cheating on anyone. She was my best friend, and you humiliated me in front of everyone. Please remember that we are free people in a free country. There's no reason not to do what we want. She wanted me, now that I'm free. Please remember that the only traitor in this situation is you. You cheated on me with that jerk Ben behind my back. I've never cheated on you since we met. You destroyed the friendship between me and my best friend. And you destroyed my planned wedding to the girl I loved. A neighbor with a child the same age as our son called Julia and asked if she wanted to go with her to the horse club, where there were riding lessons for children on Sundays. Julia agreed and left the house. 10 minutes after she left, the doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, I saw a well-dressed man a few years older than me. He asked me, Are you Lars Eriksson? Although I knew the answer, I replied, Who are you? My name is Benjamin Hassel. Then I got down to business and hit him in the groin with my knee so hard that he almost fell forward. I grabbed his right arm and dragged him out into the street, where I beat him and said, You fucking pervert! Have you already forgotten what I promised to do if I found your ass on my property? Get out of here before I get angry. He ran to his car, locked the doors, but didn't drive away. I went back to the house, found Benjamin Hassel in the county phone book, and dialed the number. A woman's voice answered, Magdalena Hassel. My name is Lars Eriksson. I'm the husband of Julia Meyer, who attended your husband Benjamin's PR course last week. Do you know where he is right now? Of course I do. He went to visit his old mother. Why do you ask?